What's up, boys? So we're back with part two of ranking every pay-per-view since 2023 in this tier list. We got goated, stacked, good, average, and a waste of money showing to us. So without further ado, we're going to start off with the first pay-per-view of 2024, Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. The first fight. This was definitely the closer fight of the two, probably the more entertaining one as well. People seem to absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that Sean Strickland got robbed and won this first fight, but I'm in disagreement with that. I thought Dricus won. I had it 3-2 Dricus. I think it all comes down to the third round, which was very, very close, but I had Dricus pulling it out. That's what the judges gave it as well, and that started Dricus's title reign as we know it. So a banger main event, to be honest, but co-main, a WMMA fight is not what you want to see as the co-main event, especially Raquel Pennington, and especially it being dominant, which makes it even less exciting. I mean, not good, not what you want to see on a pay-per-view card. Magny Malat, the Canadian superstar, or at least they want him to be a superstar, he gets fraud checked by Neil Magny. Terrible. Chris Curtis, Marc-Andre Barrieux. That's a decent fight. Two plodsters throwing big meaty hooks in the pocket there. Two judges had it 3-0 to Chris Curtis, and one judge gave it to Marc-Andre Barrieux. That's the state of judging in today's world. You have a top 10, even close to a top 5 featherweight fight in Evloev versus Allen. Very high-level matchup, although nothing really crazy in this fight happening. Some people are crying robbery for Arnold Allen, but Evloev probably won that fight 2-1. The prelims are kind of just an April Fool's joke from Danny here. Literally nothing on the early prelims, nothing on the main prelims. Charles Jourdain and Shad Woodson is the best fight on the whole entire prelims, and that wasn't even a great fight. Went to a split decision. I mean, the prelims, this is some of the worst prelims I've ever seen on a pay-per-view. So, and of course, the main card, Mike Malat, Neil Magny, Barrieux, this is a waste of money, and this is probably the worst one I've seen so far since 2023. This is an absolute monstrosity. 298, although this is where the stacked pay-per-view streak begins with 298, 299, 300. So, why does Ilya not have a picture? I don't know. Either way, you got Volk Ilya as the main event. Ilya Topuria gains championship status, knocking out the featherweight GOAT in Volkanovski. So pretty crazy to see. That was a pick'em fight. Costa with no picture either. Whitaker versus Costa. This was actually a really fun fight. Whitaker gets really wobbled at the end of the first round by a spinning heel kick from Paulo Costa, but ends up winning the unanimous decision there, as we all thought he would. Gary versus Neal, another great striking battle. Pretty boring, I will say, but just another high-level matchup, top 10 matchup, so really can't complain with that. Merab versus Cejudo, current champ versus past champ. Pretty entertaining fight, to be honest. Kopylov Hernandez, very, very underrated fight. Both these guys are dark horses at the middleweight division, especially Anthony Hernandez. This guy's been proving that he's one of the best at grappling, at his cardio. So this guy's an actual threat in this middleweight division. Roman Kopylov, very, very fun striker. Is ranked 15 now after knocking out Chris Curtis. So both guys are very, very impressive. Hernandez gets the submission win. So pretty cool to see. The prelims, okay. Marcos Rogelio de Lima, Junior Tafa. I think this was short notice, but that fight should have never happened there. De Lima gets the leg kick KO. That's pretty interesting. Nakamura is a decent prospect, but goes to a very boring decision. So not what you want to see. Zhang Min Yang gets the first round knockout. This guy's actually a pretty good prospect. He's fighting Anthony Smith soon. Danny Barlow kind of got fraud checked by Sam Patterson. Oban Elliott. Val Woodburn's not UFC caliber. You heard me say it last video. Oban Elliott's okay. The early prelims, nothing crazy. Even the prelims, nothing great. A lot of prospects like Nakamura, Ming Yang, Danny Barlow, Oban Elliott, but the main card was pretty spectacular. Not a ton of finishes, but you had some good fights, a bunch of top 10 fights, some previous champions on there, so I'll probably put this in the good pay-per-view. The main card really carried it. If there were a few good fights on the prelims, I'd probably have it in the stacked category, but For now, we're going to put it in the good pay-per-view. I like that. Moving to 299, O'Malley versus Chito Vera, their rematch. O'Malley dominates Chito, 230 significant strikes, lands that fluish knee up the middle. Crazy, sickening sound from that. If you guys have heard that knee land on Chito's forehead, the guy has a rubber chin. It's absolutely absurd. The Poirier-Benoit knockout, crazy moment for Dustin Poirier. Everybody was rooting for him, though. That was probably CGI. I don't think that actually happened. I think that was just kind of like put in there to gain Poirier some traction for the fans, but Benoit would never get knocked out by anybody, so he's probably going to be the champ soon. Holland versus Michael Venom Page. MVP makes his debut. What is that, 70 significant strikes total in this fight. Not a lot happened, but at the same time, MVP was very impressive, outstruck Kevin Holland pretty much all 3 rounds. It was unanimous 29-28. Not a lot of output, but he had a few flashy strikes in there. So Michael Venom Page's debut, that's going to get some good traction on this pay-per-view. Burns JDM, underrated fight. Jack Della Maddalena, comeback knockout. I think he was down, and he was on his way to losing the 3rd round, and then he Granby rolls out of it and lands a freaking flush knee to Gilbert Burns. Burns stumbles back, and JDM gets the TKO finish. Really, really good comeback. Crazy scenes for JDM, so that was a great moment. Petr Yan, Song Yadong, very high-level matchup. Very fun, entertaining matchup as well. An absolutely stacked main card. I don't know if anybody was unranked on this main card besides maybe Benoit, but he was probably ranked, to be honest. So absolutely stacked. And then you go to the prelims. You have a ranked heavyweight, top 10 heavyweight matchup in Almeida versus Blades. You got Gamrot, RDA. Gamrot, a top 10 lightweight. You got Munoz, Kyler Phillips, both guys near the bantamweight rankings at the time. Kutelaba, Michel Pereira, Ola Jacek was a very entertaining, and that's not surprising. Pereira hurts him and then subs him. Crazy. He might have even done a backflip on Mikhail Jacek after hurting him. Rebels to Spain gets an 18-second knockout in his debut. He was a hyped-up prospect. Asuel Mabayev gets the victory there. He's in the top 10 at flyweight, so a ton of ranked fighters and a few hyped-up prospects making their debut as well. This is it goated? Is it goated? I'm going to put goated. Miami cards always deliver as well. You know, if we saw a knockout in the main event, it would 100% be goated, but I'm going to put goated either way. Moving on to UFC 300. You know where this one's going. I'm not even going to waste your time here. We're going to put this in the goated tier. And honestly, I would expect that from Dana. UFC 300. I think it could have been better on paper than it actually was, because there were rumors that Dana was trying to get Islam versus Leon. He was trying to get Leon versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. We ended up with Jamal Hill, Alex Pereira. So, that's a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. Pereira gets the first round knockout. Zhang Wei Li subs Yan Xiaonan out cold, but it doesn't get called off, so he just beats her to a pulp for 5 straight rounds. Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje. Do I even have to explain that? Absolute scenes on the literal last second knockout for Max Holloway. Charles Arman, number 1 contenders fight at lightweight. Do I even need to explain myself there? Very high level. Not the most entertaining fight, but we saw Arman caught in a few very deep submissions. He was still able to pull off the split decision, though, so could have been more entertaining, to be honest, especially since, it being a Charles Oliveira fight. Bo Nickel gets another cupcake layup, cream puff matchup versus Cody Brundage. Honestly, it didn't even look that good, to be honest, as a minus 1,500 favorite as well. Either way, just a stacked main card, and of course, oh my gosh, I can't even believe this is a real card. Prelims, Prohaska Rakic, Kattar, Aljamain Sterling, former champ. Home, Kayla Harrison, a former champ. Diego Lopez, guy just fought for the belt, gets the first round knockout. Turner Moicano, a lightweight banger, both in their rankings. An old Bobby Green versus an even older Jim Miller. He beats Jim Miller to an absolute pulp, 30-25. What in the world? former champ Davison Figueiredo versus former champ Cody Garbrandt. It's insane the amount of ranked fighters and former champions who had on this card. Like I said, easily going into the GOATed tier. Moving to UFC 301, you got Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. A lot of people are saying Steve Erceg didn't deserve this title shot, and it was probably so, but either way, he absolutely proved that he could hang with the best of them and damn near won the fight. Kind of gave it away in the last round going for a takedown attempt, but Pantoja proved to be just a little bit too much for him. An absolute war as usual for these flyweight title fights. Jose Aldo, Jonathan Martinez. This was a pretty solid main card. I feel like a lot of people don't even remember this card because, it's a flyweight title fight as the main event, no other title fights. But like I said with these Brazilian cards, there's a ton of prospects. Especially on the prelims. You have Vitor Petrino getting absolutely fraud checked by Anthony Smith, getting guillotined. Terrible from Vitor. Michel Pereira, Ihor Potieria, very, very quick submission there. Hurts Ihor Potieria, does a backflip on him, and then subs him out cold. Baralho gets the knockout over Paul Craig, so a lot of guys moving up the rankings. Joanderson Brito, Jack Shore. Good prospect matchup. Oralby versus Brenner. Really fun fight between two lightweight prospects. Mauricio Rufy's debut. Guy looked like prime Conor McGregor out there. He was my lock of the card. You got Bonfim. Alessandro Costa is not a bad prospect as well. So a pretty stacked Brazil pay-per-view. And like I said, a lot of people aren't even going to remember this because of the flyweight main event. There's no crazy main event, especially since Steve Erceg was like number 7 or 8 at the time. But I'm honestly going to put this in the good tier. This was a solid pay-per-view, and I enjoyed it, to be honest. Moving to UFC 302, I did see this live and in person for my first card ever. Great main event. I obviously I didn't get to watch on TV, so it was a little bit of a different experience. Islam pulls off the submission in the 5th round. I see people saying that this was like fight of the year, and I don't know if it's just being live in person that it's kind of seemed a little bit more one-sided to be a fight of the year. But either way, I mean, the whole arena was cheering for Dustin, as you could imagine. So loud when he was landing those body shots in the 3rd or 4th round over Islam, defending every defended takedown by Dustin Poirier. The crowd went absolutely nuts. So really fun fight. Strickland Costa, a bunch of strikes landed, but not entertaining strikes, if you know what I mean. Not a lot of excitement in this fight. Pretty much at the end of every round, like the last 10 seconds, Sean Strickland would throw up a crazy kick or a flying knee or something like that to get the crowd going. And we'd think Paulo Costa was maybe a little bit hurt, but he really wasn't. People are saying this is one of Sean Strickland's, worst performances, but yeah, pretty boring fight. The most entertaining thing about this fight was the 49-46 scorecard for Paulo Costa. Absolutely insane. Strickland won at least 4 of these rounds, and one of the judges gave it 4-1 Paulo Costa. No excuses there. That guy should be absolutely banned from the UFC octagon and probably sent to the retirement home. But either way, Holland Olajaychuk, very entertaining fight. This was never going to go the distance, and it didn't. Olajaychuk drops Holland, but then Holland gets the armbar submission, damn near breaking Olajaychuk's arm. So a pretty cool moment to see. Price, Morono, these guys should be probably sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for this fight. This is one of the lowest level fights I've ever seen. I mean, Nico Price, Alex Morono, come on. Both these guys were gassed from the first minute of the fight on, and it just looks so sloppy, man. Randy Brown, Dos Santos, decent fight, nothing crazy. There were no knockouts on this card, so for that being my first ever UFC card going live in person, there being no knockouts, that's kind of a joke. But either way, you had Cesar Almeida, Roman Kopylov, good striking battle. Roman Kopylov, one of my favorite prospects, so that was cool to see him. Almeida, Romanov, finally we see a finish there. This was the first finish of the night, about freaking 7 fights in. Almeida gets the quick finish there, as we expected. Grant Dawson literally laid on Joe Selecki. You can see 13:46 of control time in a 15-minute fight. Just an absolute disgrace. Took him down once and held him down for all 3 rounds. Jake Matthews, I mean, Hafez Gal was a pretty nice fight. Both guys were just winging overhands and all that, trying to get the knockout. It didn't happen, but it was a pretty entertaining fight. Andre Lima also coming up the rankings as well. Good prospect, but like I said, no knockouts, a bunch of decisions. This is going to go in the probably the average. Yeah, I can't put it in the good. It's going to go in the average tier, unfortunately. But again, the main event kind of carried the night. Moving on to UFC 303, we got Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka, the rematch on short notice. Pereira dusts him in 2. Not a competitive fight in the slightest. Way less competitive than the first fight somehow. You got that crazy scenario at the co-main event. Danny Ige jumps in literally on about 4 hours notice to fight Diego Lopez, who was supposed to fight Brian Ortega, but that didn't work out. Ortega pulls out the little soy boy. Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze, another snoozer. I mean, that's pretty criminal. Gary versus Page, a great fight to open up the main card. Gary looked pretty lost on the feet. Page outstriking him, had to use his grappling to get the job done. Gets a unanimous decision, but very, very close fight. Marc-Andre Barriault gets slept into the shadow realm by Joe Pyfer, right onto the temple. First round, quick work for Joe Pyfer. You had the Gene Silva-Charles Jourdain fight, another good KO, great. That's always what you want to see on the prelims. Gene Silva, good, very hyped up prospect at this point. Prelims, not great. Vinicius Oliveira versus Ricky Simón. This is a solid fight. As we know, Vinicius Oliveira just beat Said Nurmagomedov, so he's climbing up the rankings well. He could get a ranked contender in his next fight, so a few good prospects. You got Peyton Talbot on there as well. Forgot about that. 19-second KO. I mean, it's Giannis Skamori. Let's not act like that's a great win. Pretty good card, to be honest. I'm going to put in the average. I mean, nothing really stands out. That's just your typical pay-per-view card. Some good prospects. Alex Pereira at the main event, where that seems like he's the main event in half these pay-per-view cards anyway. Where do we got? Pereira Prochazka 2. We're going to put that in the average tier. UFC 304 in London. Edwards versus Muhammad 2. Not a bad card. Bilal gets the upset decision win over Leon Edwards. Aspinall dusts Curtis Blades in 60 seconds, so defending his interim belt. Yes, you heard that right. Paddy Pimblett, Bobby Green subs him out cold. Good viewing for the London crowd there, but not a crazy opponent. Gregory Rodriguez beats CLD. Nothing really there. Pretty dominant from Gregory Rodriguez. A good prospect matchup. Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze. Kind of a weird matchup. I don't know why they gave Arnold Allen Chikadze as an opponent, but he gets the close decision, albeit pretty boring fight, to be honest. Manel Kat Makayev, I don't know why that was opening up the prelims, but it did. Very, very underwhelming for how we thought the fight would go, with how much trash talking these guys did. Almost fought several times in the hotel, and then they pull that off. Makayev cheating a bunch of times. Manel Kat breaking his toe in the second round, I think. So, I mean, very, very underwhelming and disappointing fight for what we thought would happen. Mick Parkin, he's close to the rankings now, was in the rankings, gets the first round knockout. I think the first knockout in his UFC career, so that's pretty cool. The England guys did do pretty well in this card, so you got to give him that. I'm going to put this in the good pay-per-view. Honestly, nothing really more to say. Edwards, Muhammad, we're going to put him in the good. 305, DDP versus Israel Adesanya in Australia. Great main event. We thought this was honestly like prime Izzy. I mean, his striking looks very good. DDP able to just weather the storm and kind of be a goofball out there, and then all of a sudden pulls off the submission. So first time Israel Adesanya has been subbed, for that matter. Great win by Dricus du Plessis. Co-main event, Kai Kara-France gets the underdog knockout over Steve Erceg. Crazy moment there. Both guys are Australian, so I wonder who people were rooting for in that fight. Gamrot Hooker, low-key fight of the year contender. Very, very good fight. Of course, it's at lightweight. All the lightweight fights deliver. I think Gamrot was hurt in the first round, so I think Hooker stole that. And then I think Hooker was hurt as well at a certain point. Very, very good fight. Hooker, both guys were showing a lot of damage too, so they gave the Aussie, or the New Zealander, Kiwi, is that what they call them? They gave the Kiwi the win there, so the crowd went crazy. Rozenstruik to Ivasa, not a great fight, to be honest. Of course, a judge gives it they gave it a 3-0 to Ivasa. This was a 3-0 to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He won all 3 rounds easily, 91-37 significant strikes, and a judge gave it 3-0 to Tai Tuivasa. Just let that sink in for a sec. I mean, some of these scorecards are outrageous. We just mentioned with the Paulo Costa, Sean Strickland scorecard. There's got to be some shady things going on backstage, man. I mean, that's insane. Prates cracks Li Jingliang's chin. Guy's never been knocked out. Carlos Prates walks in there, gets the knockout because he does whatever he wants to do inside the octagon, just like Gene Silva, just like Mauricio Rufy. These guys are literally absurd at fighting. Walker Tafa, I'm gonna skip over that one. That's just an atrocious fight. A heel cook finish at heavyweight. Come on. Jack Jenkins gets the layup win over Herbert Burns, trying to get the Aussie the win there. Tom Nolan comes in as a minus 1,500 favorite, doesn't even get the finish. I mean, I expected a little bit more from him there. Early prelims, not anything crazy. Prelims, not good, to be honest. Main card, low-key and underrated main card for how bad the prelims were. Is that enough that wasn't a great fight. Quick knockout. Just because the main card very much delivered, I'm going to put this in the good pay-per-view tier, but it's borderline average. It's borderline average, but the main card was great, and they delivered probably better than we thought they did. So we're going to put that in the good tier. UFC 306, we got the card at the Sphere. Merab, Sean O'Malley. Merab gets it done. Slight underdog. I picked O'Malley in this fight. I thought O'Malley would be able to find the KO shot over the course of 5 rounds, but he didn't. And then Merab goes to beat on Umar as well. So, guy is really proving everybody wrong here. You have to pick him in basically every bantamweight fight from now on because his cardio is just too good. His pressure is too good. His wrestling is too good to pick against him. Shevchenko Grasso, what a boring fight. Shevchenko, 16 minutes of control time, man. We thought this would be like an absolute war. I mean, and we got the complete opposite. Shevchenko just laid and preyed on Grasso for 5 straight rounds. Lopez Ortega was a pretty good fight. Hurts Ortega in the first round and then basically cruises to a decision, winning all 3 rounds. Esteban Rubivic versus Daniel Zellhuber, fight of the year. No doubt fight of the year, to be honest. I did pick Rubivic, the underdog in this fight, and he got it done. A ton of strikes. I mean, their whole body is red on this ESPN Fight Center. It's absolutely absurd. Zellhuber gets the knockdown, and I think in the same round, Rubivic very much hurts Zellhuber. Going to the body, going to the head. Zellhuber is literally on autopilot. I don't even know how he's standing at some points of the second round. Absurd stuff. Great toughness from Daniel Zellhuber, and Rubivic pulls out the split decision. Like I said, fight of the year without a doubt for me. So that's definitely gonna to bump up the tier for this card. Ronaldo Rodriguez, this was a great fight as well. Gets put in a nasty triangle by Ode Osborne after being dropped, and then survives, and then 10-8 Ode on the ground pretty much, and then the third round wasn't anything crazy, but a really entertaining fight. And Ronaldo Rodriguez was also great on the mic at the press conference as well. So Bahamondes Torres, very highly touted prospect matchup. Bahamondes gets the better of Manuel Torres, so first round knockout, that looks great on the resume now after Torres just beat Drew Dober. Joshua Van, Edgar Shirez, one of the craziest rounds I've ever seen, where Joshua Van was beating him up to a pulp. Shirez lands a desperate spinning elbow, and Van is very hurt. He's able to survive. He might have even shot in a desperation takedown. So we have had two of probably the craziest rounds of the whole entire year on the same card. So yeah, Raul Rosas opens up the main card. This was an absolute snoozer. So either way, do you put it in GOATed? I'm going to put it in stacked just because how much they delivered. On paper, the card wasn't that great. But like I said, a bunch of these fights delivered, and we had two of the best rounds of the whole entire year. So we're going to put this in the stacked column. Moving up to 307, another Alex Pereira fight versus Khalil Roundtree. I think he was number 8 in the division. And I had Khalil up 2-1 through 3 rounds. Then Pereira enters the Matrix mode in that 4th round, just slipping kind of like Prime Connor, and eventually gets the TKO up against the fence. Dominant from Pereira in the 4th round there, coming in as a big favorite, and Khalil did much better than we thought he would, although he took a ton of damage in that fight as well. So a good main event, I'll say. Mario Bautista versus Jose Aldo. We need a petition to get Mario Bautista cut from the UFC after this fight. I picked Jose Aldo. They probably should have given him the decision too, but Mario Bautista holds Jose Aldo up against the cage and does nothing and gets the win. An absolute disgrace. Even this WMMA fight, Pena, I think this was a robbery as well. So not a terrible fight, a decently entertaining fight, but it's WMMA. DeLindsey Holland, this was a first round injury TKO. I mean, come on. Kayla Harrison gets kind of the snoozer decision. Buckley Wonderboy was a great fight. Very, very close fight through 2 rounds, and then Buckley lands the knockout shot. So that was a great moment because we didn't really know how good Buckley was and how good he would do versus the top guys of the division. And yeah, Stephen Wonderboy's a little bit washed. He's getting up there in age, but Buckley finds the knockout shot. Only the second time Wonderboy's been KO'd. So moving down the prelims, pretty terrible. Court McGee, Tim Means, OSP, a bunch of absolute fossils. So we got the tough guys in there. The prelims, besides Wonderboy and Buckley, were pretty buns in my opinion. And the main card, just not great. We're gonna do. It honestly could be a waste of money, but I'm gonna give it an average pay-per-view. I think that's a good spot for it. UFC 308, Abu Dhabi. You can probably guess where this one's going. Abu Dhabi cards always deliver. Ilia Topuria defends his belt, knocking out Max Holloway. First time Max has been knocked out, so crazy scenes there. Whitaker Chimaev. Chimaev returns for his yearly domination win. Subbing Whitaker in the first round. Immediate takedown. Gets the face crank. Crushes Robert Whitaker's bottom jaw. Crazy to see. So Hamzat hopefully gets the title shot next. Ankalaev Rakic, an absolute snoozer to be quite honest, but very, very high level matchup. Sometimes with these high level matchups, that's what happens. Lerone Murphy at Dan Ige, a good ranked featherweight matchup. Dan Ige does get the knockdown in the first, but Lerone comes back, wins 2 and 3. Sharamagomedov versus Armen Petrosyan. What a knockout. Double spinning back fist knockout for Sharamagomedov. One of the biggest highlights of the year. You have Jeff Neal knocking out RDA in the prelims. Oral by Rebecki. This is also a fight of the year contender. Both guys were bloodied, battered, gassed out. You guys got to watch that fight back if you can. Rebecki gets the split decision win. As a pretty decent underdog as well. Just stacked, honestly. Farid Basharat, Abus Magomedov, Bruno Ferreira, Renat Fakhretdinov, a bunch of contenders and just guys near the rankings. So this is going into the GOATed tier. This is going into the GOATed. Outstanding main and co-main. along with the usual Abu Dhabi crowd on the prelims. That's going into the goated tier. 309, Jones Miocic. Jon Jones finally getting back into the UFC octagon after a long layoff from his injury. Pretty much dominates Stipe Miocic, as we all thought he would. Stipe comes in at about 60 years old. Guy who never even fought in the Venom shorts before this fight. Absolutely insane to say. I don't even know how he's ranked. This is the biggest disgrace of a matchup I've ever seen. But, Dana wants to get the legacy fights, so that's what we get. The people's main event, Oliveira versus Chandler, an absolute banger. Goes the distance somehow. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler goes 25 minutes. Can't believe I'm saying that, but Oliveira just wrestles him, holds him down for 4 straight rounds. Chandler finally hurts Charles on the feet, but it's a little bit too late. Makes an absolute boneheaded mistake, and Oliveira just takes him down after getting hurt by Michael Chandler. Like we all know, Chandler has no IQ in these finishing moments. So Bo Nickel, terrible fight versus Paul Craig. I mean, and he was glazing himself up too. I mean, he was saying that he beats Hamzat. He was saying I outstruck Paul Craig. I don't even use my grappling. Like, it's an absolute joke, bro. I'm picking Rainier DeRitter to smoke Bo Nickel, to be honest. Like, I'm not impressed at all. You can't come in the UFC with that striking and beat the ranked guys. There's just no way, especially with RDR being a grappler. I'm sorry, bro. This was a disgrace. I'm skipping the WMMA fights if you guys haven't noticed. Rufi versus Lontop. This was a very entertaining fight. Rufi gets a knockdown over a very tough Lontop. Goes to a 2-1 decision. A little bit suspect there, but gets outstruck by a good margin as well. Still gets the win. Still an entertaining fight. Lontop missed weight too, so yeah, great fight. Main card, not great, not terrible, pretty good. Martinez McGee finally gets in the rankings after beating Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez refuses to throw leg kicks, even though he had Marcus McGee hurt by the leg kicks. If he threw a few more, he probably would have got the leg kick TKO, but these guys never make right decisions. Marcus McGee enters the rankings. Pretty fun fight there. He looks really good in the first 2 rounds as well. Old man versus an even older man. I mean, this is a disgrace. Onama, Roberto Romero. I think this was a pretty fun fight. Yeah, both guys got a knockdown. Onama coming at minus 2,500. A lot of strikes landed, 2 knockdowns, so very entertaining fight. Tibura Diniz, that fight did in fact happen. Early prelims, absolutely nothing going on there. 309, I'm gonna put in the good tier. Nothing too crazy, but a solid main card. I know he was out of the cage for a long time, but always good to see Jon Jones in the cage. So this is going into the good tier. Moving up to UFC 310, the last pay-per-view of 2024. Pantoja versus Kai Asakura making his debut. Gets subbed up in the second round. Landed some decent shots on Pantoja, but nothing crazy. Pantoja shows his level, his UFC experience. Gets the submission over Kai Asakura, probably what we expected too. Shavkat Gary, there are a few really fun moments in this fight, but Gary had him literally in a rear naked choke. I mean, that was not on the bingo card, but for a 5-round fight, not a lot of strikes landed. Pretty boring, to be honest. Definitely was a little bit underwhelming for how we thought that fight would go. Gane versus Volkov, putrid robbery. Fun fight, heavyweight, ranked. Volkov, this is kind of a number 1 contenders fight, to be honest. Volkov gets robbed, so hopefully he gets a good matchup in the future. Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie. Kron Gracie's on the card. That's bumping the card down a tier. Bryce Mitchell he's minus 1,100. He should have gotten the KO there. Doo Choi, Nate Landwehr. We thought this one would be an absolute banger, but it was more just domination of Doo Choi, to be honest. He absolutely dominated Nate Landwehr, wire to wire. Absolutely great performance from Doo Choi. And yeah, Nate Landwehr had a tough time fighting back and getting held down on the ground. So another underwhelming fight from our expectations. Reyes gets the second round KO over Anthony Smith. Dominates Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith quit way early into the fight. I mean, kind of what we expected, to be honest. Luque Garimbo. Luque gets the first round Anaconda submission choke as the underdog in 52 seconds. Very nice moment, especially for the Luque fans. We were all rooting for this guy to get back into the win column after that serious head injury, and he did just that. Evloev Sterling on the prelims, far down on the prelims. This was basically an ADCC jiu-jitsu match. Very fun grappling match at that. Though there were not a lot of strikes landed, still an entertaining fight, especially if you like grappling. Bryan Battle, Randy Brown, another pretty highly touted welterweight prospect matchup. I thought this was kind of a robbery, to be honest. I had it for Randy Brown, but Bryan Battle gets the decision win. Weidman Anders, this was a really weird fight, very weird stoppage. Weidman did have a knockdown, but I don't really remember much about this, but I remember it being a very weird stoppage. Weidman kind of gets dominated by Eric Anders, poor Weidman. Joshua Van beats the piss out of Cody Durden. That's why he's the best in the world. Hooper versus Guida. I mean, come on, really. Chase and Griffin, a few dinosaur fossils on this card. Nozachukwu moving up to heavyweight, gets first round knockout. Very solid early prelims on this card, I will say. I mean, very well rounded from top to bottom. This is a stacked card, without a doubt. This is a stacked card. Main event is lacking a little bit, of course, but very well rounded, like I just said. You got ranked guys on the early prelims. I think Joshua Van might have been near the rankings, but ranked guys, a ton of ranked guys on the prelims, and some great fights in the main card there. So we're gonna put that in the stacked column. Moving on to UFC 311, the first pay-per-view of this year. Kasha versus Moicano. Islam gets the first round sub on the short notice for Moicano. I mean, that's basically what we expected there to get the quick finish. Merab Umar, very, very underrated fight. He outstrikes Umar, lands 7 takedowns. Gets the bantamweight takedown record as well in this fight. Coming in at plus 240 as the champ. Proves everyone wrong, man. This guy has the winning formula with his cardio. Very entertaining fight, to be honest. Yuri Praska, Jamal Hill. Yuri gets the KO. It's what we all wanted to see. Jamal Hill, probably the worst champion since 2020. I mean, that guy has lost numerous fights since being champ, beating a washed Glover Teixeira. So kind of a yikes for Jamal Hill. Hopefully he gets the job done in his next fight. But Almeida Spivak, we all know Jalen Almeida would run through Sergey Spivak, so not surprising there. DeRitter Holland, a pretty fun matchup, but fight didn't really play out that exciting. DeRitter just took him down and subbed him. Peyton Talbot gets absolutely fraud checked. Bykov Reese, solid prospect matchup. Bykov making his debut. Guskov, ranked light heavyweight. Dawson Ferreira, decent matchup going into it, but it's Grant Dawson, and he did what we thought he would do. He would just take his opponent down and lay on him for the whole entire fight, and that's basically what he did. Nakamura gets fraud checked as well. Sopai Turkios, this was a pretty fun fight. Sopai is a very entertaining fighter. Ulan Bekov gets the decision win as well versus Clayton Carpenter, so that's a ranked flyweight there. You got Nakamura, you had Peyton Talbot getting fraud checked, so not a good day for the undefeated guys. You got Umar Nurmagomedov losing his O. This is going into this could even be, now we're going to put it into the stacked column as well. So back-to-back stacked pay-per-views. Thank you, Dana. Moving on to UFC 312. We got DDP versus Strickland in the rematch. Not as close as the first fight, but DDP took control. We were all picking DDP in this fight, to be honest. Strickland, he just didn't make adjustments. He's not improving. He's just throwing the same jab and teep and hoping that it works. And it beats a lot of guys, but versus the champions like Dricus Du Plessis, it's just not going to work out. And that's what happened. Dricus basically won every single round. Tatiana Suarez's wrestling gets absolutely fraud checked by Zhang Weili. Dominated all her opponents in the wrestling and then gets controlled for 11 minutes by Zhang Weili. So very impressive by Zhang Weili. as the underdog. I was picking Weili all day long. I don't know how she's the underdog. Very weird odds on this fight. Teixeira Tafa. Teixeira gets into the rankings in his debut there versus Justin Tafa. Lands a KO up against the fence. I think it was an elbow. Yep. So nice knockout to see, but not high level. Bellato Crute. Very fun fight, to be honest. Jimmy Crute with the knockdown. Dominant first round. Bellato wins the second two, and they give it a draw. Matthews Prado. Decent fight. We thought Matthews would pull it out by decision. That's what he did. Santos Jenkins, a great prospect matchup. Tom Nolan, a good prospect. Wang Kong, a good prospect. Alexandre Topuria makes his UFC debut as obviously the brother of Ilia Topuria. So great to see him fighting in the UFC now. Rongju versus Cody Steele was an absolute banger. These guys were literally just swinging overhands in the pocket at the end of the fight. Cody Steele kind of got beat up to a pulp, I'm not going to lie, as the minus 360 favorite. That's kind of criminal for him, but... And then we see Anshul Jubilee get memed out of the octagon in 19 seconds, so that was pretty funny as well. I know I said that I usually don't like the Australia cards, but this one wasn't too bad. The main card on paper wasn't great, especially these three fights, but they were all very entertaining. Even then, though, this is going to go in... the prelims weren't bad. There were a few really entertaining fights. Nolan Borshev was pretty entertaining as well. I'm gonna throw this in the good tier. It might be a little bit surprising, but I'm gonna throw this in the good tier. The fights delivered better than we expected them to, so I'm gonna throw it in the good tier. There we go. UFC 313, Pereira Ankalaev. Big Ank gets it done. I did pick Big Ank as well. He gets it done through the 5-round distance. Gaethje Viziev, short notice banger at the co-main. Bahamondes gets the submission on a mentally not there Jalen Turner. Sad to see Jalen Turner retire, but Bahamondes really building up his resume here. Rufi gets the sick knockout of the year candidate, spinning heel kick KO over Bobby Green to open up the main card. So that was a very entertaining moment. Joshua Van beats Ray Saruya there. Not sure what that matchup was. Bruno Ferreira subs Armin Petrosian, so good win for Bruno Ferreira as well. He should be getting somewhere near the rankings next. Leal just beats Morono to a pulp there as a huge favorite. Kind of a sacrifice there for Alex Morono, but either way, got a potential huge robbery in this Santos versus Marshall fight. Let me know what you guys scored this fight, to be honest, because at first glance I thought it was pretty much 2-1, 3-0 Marshall, but watching it back, Santos kind of put on a little bit more damage than Marshall in rounds 2 and 3. So let me know what you guys scored that fight. And then Santos Diaz, pretty low level to open up the main card. Pretty well rounded card. Honestly, this is a pretty average pay-per-view. Nothing crazy. You got a few prospects, a few bangers. You got the close main event. This is just going to go in the average tier. Sucks that Alex Pereira lost the belt as well. So, yeah, that's going in the average. And then UFC 314 just happened last week. Volkanovski, Prime Volk, is back. He stood up for himself, gets the unanimous decision win over Diego Lopez. Paddy Pimblett, the best performance of his career in the co-main versus Michael Chandler. Pitbull's debut. You got Gene Silva, Bryce Mitchell, very hyped up fight. Gene Silva submits the grappler. Pretty surprising there. Dominic Reyes continues his knockout streak over Krylov as the underdog. Very good storyline there. So a stacked main card. Ige Woodson. These prelims were stacked as well. Ige Woodson, even Xiaonan Jandiroba was a pretty good fight, at least on paper. Chase Hooper climbing up the rankings. Ola Jacek, Marco Tulio looked very impressive. So pretty stacked card, and that's where it's going to go. It's going to go on the stacked card. Is it going to be in the GOATed? Not really, because it wasn't two huge moments, putting in, or we're gonna stack there. For the GOATed tier, you're gonna need some crazy moments and an absolutely stacked card like UFC 300, like some of these Abu Dhabi cards. O'Malley Vera was stacked to the gills. So, but yeah, that'll do it. ranking the pay-per-views since 2023 all the way till now. Let me know if you guys enjoy the content so far. Leave a like, subscribe, do all that, and that'll be it for me.